Crunching the numbers, Taiwan's economic growth beats forecasts, but there's trouble on the horizon. Named and shamed, a new tactic in Kaohsiung's crackdown on drunk drivers. Looking for natural remedies, Taiwan's rush for herbal treatment for COVID symptoms as case numbers surge. Fight or flight? We meet the people trying to save the endangered russet sparrows. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan has outperformed most economies around the world since the pandemic began. But now, rising COVID cases and war-induced inflation are weighing on people's minds and pockets. James Chater surveys the scene.
Taiwan's economy grew 3.06% in the first quarter of this year, surpassing most experts' predictions. Technology exports continue to buoy figures, but growth in the first 3 months of 2022 was the slowest since the pandemic began, and rising domestic COVID cases are dampening prospects.
Some of the pressure that we see here is really about the consumption side. One of the reasons that we are seeing that is probably because of the potential COVID outbreak that we are seeing right now, and also a decline in government spending and private spending.
Inflation triggered by war in Ukraine is depressing economic forecasts globally, and Taiwan's situation is compounded by its largest trading partner China scrambling to contain a COVID outbreak. 165 million people are currently under some form of lockdown across China. Experts say Taiwan is not immune from economic contagion.
The COVID situation in China will also be quite important because that can have a direct impact on the supply chain linked to many export or different products that are probably taken orders by Taiwanese firms and produced in China and probably export to the US or EU.
Over the past 2 years, Taiwan's economy has withstood pandemic pressures well, with high demand for semiconductors shielding it from economic decline. But does that story of resilience mask a more sober reality?
I think it is not only the Taiwan case. It's, I would say, the worldwide phenomena. Well, I'm afraid we might have a so-called lost generation during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Breaking down unemployment figures reveals where that economic pain is really being felt. Unemployment in Taiwan across the board stands at 3.6%. But for people aged 20 to 24, that soars to 12.47%, well over 3 times the average.
The Taiwan government, they should really pay attention to the life chance and also the labor market chance of this generation.
But for now, despite evident headwinds, the overall picture appears promising.
I think the general sentiment is that the growth rate cannot be as fast as last year. However, things are still quite stable given what we are seeing right now.
Daily COVID cases in Taiwan have now risen beyond 10,000 for the first time, and the government warns that's set to increase. Navigating this new environment will be a true test of Taiwan's economic resilience. Chris Marr and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Semiconductors, supply chains and logistics, those were the main topics of discussion between Taiwan's president and business leaders looking to strengthen partnerships in North America. President Tsai met members of the North American Taiwan Chambers of Commerce on Friday. The group is made up of professionals from Taiwan who have emigrated to the US and Canada. Tsai said she was grateful for the support from Taiwan's friends.
台湾和美国的双边关系也不断的在加温当中。之前呢，也启动了新一轮的台美经济商业对话。那我也希望能够更积极的深化台美的经贸链接，让台湾成为全球供应链中在重整的过程当中发挥一个关键的力量。
When Taiwanese people think of China's incursions, they typically assume it involves Chinese warplanes entering Taiwan's air defense identification zone. But there is another kind of incursion that's affecting Taiwan's coastlines: sand dredging. As Bing Wang reports, it's another move to exhaust Taiwan's military defenses.
At the crack of dawn, Taiwan's Coast Guard races to intercept a Chinese ship from dredging sand in Taiwan's waters. The ship was spotted 90 nautical miles off the coast of the southern city of Tainan. The Coast Guard seen here boarded the Chinese ship and took its crew into custody.
该抽查船既有10名船员，载沙量约300吨。经请示桥头地检署检察官后，盗采海沙，全数回填台湾滩海域。
Here, the Chinese ship was made to return sand it had dredged back into Taiwan's coast. Taiwanese officials say China's illegal sand dredging is a campaign to exhaust Taiwan's defenses without resorting to open combat, much like Chinese incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. The sand dredging is also harmful to Taiwan's marine environment and damaging local fish industries. In 2020, Taiwan expelled nearly 4,000 Chinese sand dredgers. In 2021, the number dropped down to around 650. This year, the Coast Guard has so far expelled around 40 ships. The downward trend is likely because of new laws that impose a jail sentence of 7 years on offenders and a fine of 100 million NT dollars or 3.4 million US dollars. But some say the penalties should be higher. While the number of trespassing Chinese sand dredgers has gone down, Taiwan's Coast Guard is beefing up its resources, with 100 more boats expected over the next decade. Backed up by stricter laws, they hope to deter further Chinese encroachment. Patrick Chen and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is taking new steps to improve road safety. The southern city of Kaohsiung is cracking down on drunk drivers, while lawmakers are pushing new rules to fight reckless behavior behind the wheel. Eric Gao has the details.
Naming and shaming. This website reveals the identities of 5 repeat drunk drivers in the southern Taiwan city of Kaohsiung, which has become the second city to adopt the tactic under a new drunk driving law that took effect in late March. Last year, Taiwan recorded 318 deaths related to driving under the influence, 35 of those in Kaohsiung, prompting the local government to step up measures.
我们也不容许说这种酒驾一而再再而三的一个发生，所以根据中央的法规，那还有在执行上，我们都会采取最严格的标准。
It's not just driving under the influence that's receiving stricter controls. Taiwan's government is also looking to expand penalties for dangerous driving overall, with a plan to increase maximum possible fines from $800 to $1,200, and to include more offenses like illegal U-turns, reversing in traffic, and driving the wrong way.
各党团积极来沟通协调，那基本上我们是希望以这个今年年底能够完成修法实施。
Damon Lin and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Let's now get the latest developments in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. US President Joe Biden has proposed spending $33 billion in military, economic and humanitarian aid to support Ukraine. However, he has insisted the US is not attacking Russia. It comes after the United Nations Secretary General promised to do more to support the war-torn country. Rick Glauert reports.
Emergency services rushed to put out fires in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. The missile strikes by Russia killed at least one person and injured several more, and prompted a stern response from Ukraine's leader.
І сьогодні, одразу по завершенню наших перемовин в Києві у місто полетіли російські ракети. 5 ракет. І це багато що говорить про справжнє ставлення Росії до глобальних інституцій, про намагання російського керівництва принизити ООН і все, що організація уособлює. А отже, вимагає відповідної, потужної реакції.
In the highest level UN visit since Russia invaded more than 60 days ago, Guterres said Moscow had violated the United Nations Charter.
And I'm here to say to you, Mr. President, and to the people of Ukraine, we will not give up. As we keep pushing for a full-scale ceasefire, we will also keep striving for immediate practical steps to save lives and reduce human suffering.
One focus of UN efforts is the besieged port city of Mariupol, which Guterres described as a crisis within a crisis. On Thursday, smoke rose above Azovstal steelworks, where hundreds of fighters and civilians are holed up, encircled by Russian forces. The United Nations wants to help civilians in the city escape what the UN chief called an apocalypse. Russia's campaign in the east of Ukraine is gaining ground.
Ворог нарощує темпи проведення наступальної операції. Практично на усіх напрямках російські окупанти здійснюють інтенсивний вогневий вплив.
US President Joe Biden is seeking $33 billion to support Ukraine, with over $20 billion for weapons, ammunition and other military assistance. If approved by Congress, it would be a dramatic escalation of US funding to counter Russian aggression.
We have to do this. We have to do our part as well, leading the alliance. The cost of this fight is not cheap, but caving to aggression is going to be more costly if we allow it to happen.
In Kyiv, Guterres acknowledged the shortcomings of the international community's response, saying the UN Security Council had failed in its primary purpose of preventing war. But just hours after his comments, the shells came raining down again. Although the conflict in Ukraine has captured the world's attention, this has done little to stop bloodshed inside the country. Karma Shu and Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus.
The leaders of Germany and Japan say they oppose any change to the status quo in the East China and South China Seas. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz held talks with the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo on Thursday. It is Scholz's first trip to Asia since taking office. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the main topic, including the war's effect on energy security. The two leaders also discussed the issue of security in East Asia.
地域情勢については、率直に意見交換をする中で、東シナ海、南シナ海における力を背景とした一方的な現状変更の試みに強く反対する、こうしたことでは一致をいたしました。
Amazon has posted its first quarterly loss in earnings since 2015. Analysts say customers are spending less in the face of economic uncertainty. The world's largest online retailer posted a net loss of $3.8 billion from January to March. That's compared with a profit of $8.1 billion last year. The company is also projecting lower than expected sales figures from April to June due to inflation and supply chain pressures. Coming up, we look at how Taiwan's use of capital punishment is affecting its standing as a global human rights leader. Details after the break.
I'm Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
What makes this island nation exceptionally punch way above its might? It's the fascinating human stories we heard, plus the greatest movies we saw. The enduring and painstaking past we learned, plus the beautiful people we met, the delightful cuisines we tasted, plus the coexistence of many cultures we embraced. The powerful, energizing technology we invented, plus the ancient masterpieces we preserved. The human rights we advanced, plus the motherland we called home. TaiwanPlus. We will continue to show you unheard, compelling stories that touch our hearts. Come with us as we embark on yet another unraveling journey to the world.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. It's another record for Taiwan, with nearly 12,000 new local cases of COVID-19 reported on Friday. With infections continuing to rise, the government has granted emergency use authorization to Pfizer's COVID vaccine for minors. It joins the Moderna vaccine on the list of shots approved for children. Authorities are also set to introduce a new system for evaluating COVID patients. After a positive test, a health evaluation form will be sent via text message, allowing medical personnel to decide who requires hospital treatment. People in Taiwan are rushing to buy an herbal treatment for COVID symptoms. Supplies are running low as case numbers hit record highs. Practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine are working to secure more doses. Meanwhile, Taiwan's campaign to vaccinate minors is gathering steam. John Van Trieste has the details.
Across Taiwan, people worried about the recent COVID surge are turning to traditional medicine for COVID treatment. It's a compound of 10 herbs that's been shown to ease COVID symptoms. And with the government subsidy covering the cost, it's become especially popular, leading to shortages.
有些民众他会因为想要预防性的囤药，像譬如说他可能将来未来有可能预知他有可能会有确诊的一个情形。
Practitioners of traditional medicine also warn that the herbal compound only treats COVID. It doesn't prevent it. Healthy people who try taking it could see a range of side effects.
是一般健康人的身体，你喝了这个比较苦寒的药物，有可能会造成腹泻、手脚冰冷，反而免疫力会下降。
The National Association of Chinese Medicine Practitioners says it's working with factories to secure more doses. It expects the shortage to ease in May. This is also when efforts to vaccinate children under 12 will get a significant boost. Taiwan has approved the use of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for children aged between 5 and 11. Over 2 million doses for them are expected to arrive in mid-May. Doctors are using data collected overseas to reassure parents concerned about serious side effects like heart problems.
从这个免疫学的立场来讲，它是属于比较不会免疫力那么强的，比较不会产生心肌炎的这个问题。
In the past year alone, nearly 3,000 primary school students in Taiwan have had COVID. Officials expect vaccination to keep this number from climbing and stop the disruptions to school that COVID has brought with it. Rick Yi and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Now we turn to a very different COVID situation in China. Beijing has closed schools and other public spaces starting on Friday. Authorities are continuing to test 22 million of the city's residents for COVID-19. On Thursday, only 49 new cases were reported in the Chinese capital, but authorities are determined to avoid a repeat of the situation in Shanghai. That city has been in a near total lockdown for weeks, following tens of thousands of positive cases. Right now, more than 20 cities across China are undergoing some form of lockdown as the Chinese government persists with its zero COVID policy. Denmark is taking the opposite approach from China. It has become the first country in the world to halt its COVID-19 vaccination program. From May 15th, the European country will no longer be inviting people to get jabbed. but residents can still finish their course of vaccination. More than 80% of the population has been vaccinated since December 2020. The government says the virus is under control. However, they're also saying they could restart the vaccination drive in the fall or if a new variant emerges. South Korea is also moving to open up. Starting next week, they're no longer requiring people to wear masks outside in most situations. But not everyone is on board with the change. The incoming government says the move is premature. The country reported just over 50,000 new infections on Friday, but it's actually a steep decline from a peak of over 600,000 daily cases in March. The decision comes 2 weeks before President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol takes office on May 10th. Singapore's Court of Appeal has allowed a stay of execution for a man who was scheduled to be hanged on Friday. The decision comes just 2 days after the controversial hanging of another man who was believed to be disabled. Taiwan's capital punishment also has come under the spotlight this week after a convicted murderer was given a death sentence. Ryan Hoko-Patrick reports.
The trial of one of Taiwan's most grisly crimes has drawn to a close, with the man behind the Taichung plastic drum murders sentenced to death. Taiwan's continued use of capital punishment is a paradox to the image of a nation which is widely regarded as a progressive leader. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative, which ranks countries based on human rights performance, says it is a rare blemish on an otherwise impressive record.
Taiwan is a human rights leader in East Asia in many areas. It has among the highest scores we see for several of the rights we measure. But Taiwan's score for freedom from the death penalty pulls its overall scores right down. Because countries like South Korea, Hong Kong, Malaysia, they have abolished the use of the death penalty, either in law or in practice.
As a result, Taiwan ranks near the bottom among nations they analyse, despite outperforming in every other domain.
We measure freedom from arbitrary or political arrest and detention, freedom from forced disappearance, freedom from extrajudicial execution. And for all of those rights, Taiwan does really well. If Taiwan did join the majority of the world's progressive societies and respected the right to freedom from the death penalty, which all people in Taiwan should be allowed to enjoy, then Taiwan would be able to take its place among the very top performers in our data set.
Taiwan has, in recent years, used the death penalty sparingly, reserving it for those convicted of the nation's most violent and horrific crimes. Under the current government, only 2 prisoners have been executed. This is why, on the HRMI index, Taiwan still ranks well above the United States or Saudi Arabia. Although there is political will to scrap the death penalty, leaders are constrained by public opinion. Around 80% of Taiwanese want to keep it, according to a survey by the National Development Council. And this number has grown since the 1990s, when prisoners were executed far more frequently than now. Nevertheless, anti-capital punishment campaigners say it must be scrapped, no matter how rarely it is used.
When you execute someone, it cannot be recovered. So if you, at the end, we find that it's an innocent case, then you cannot do any remedy on that. So that's a big problem. Even it's only one case, it's a very serious issue. There is no 100% perfect judicial system in any country. The majority of the society support the death penalty, but we also observe that more and more people, especially the young generation, they are open for discussion.
While that discussion goes on, yet another paradox seems to ensure the death penalty's continued existence. The more conservatively it is used, the less the public want to see it disappear. Ryan Hoko-Patrick for TaiwanPlus.
An early summer in India and Pakistan has left millions sweltering in record temperatures across the subcontinent. In parts of India, the mercury has shot past 45 degrees Celsius. That sparked power outages as people crank up the air conditioning to stay cool. The temperatures follow the hottest March on record in India, but peak summer is yet to come before monsoon rains arrive in June. Heat waves have killed more than 6,500 people in India alone since 2010. Scientists say climate change is increasing the frequency of extreme weather conditions across South Asia. The russet sparrow is a must-see for birdwatchers in Taiwan, but the species is now in danger of dying out. One group of environmentalists is hoping to change that by proving humans and sparrows can live together in harmony. Phil Wang has the story.
The sparrow may not be the flashiest of birds, but these russet sparrows are known in Taiwan for how they sound. Once found throughout the country's mountainous regions, they now number less than 1,000. Russet sparrows are smaller than their city-dwelling cousins, and they prefer to nest on hillside trees in quiet areas. But deforestation has seen much of their previous habitat disappear. Now a group of volunteers in Tsai, southern Taiwan, are working to help revive the species by putting up artificial homes.
这个塑料太热，我们就是外面加这一层保温管。以前这个是把手这样子啊，因为我有一个阳台的设计，它要出入就比较不方便。
The results are promising.
有孵化成功，然后离巢的在108年有35只然后在109年有77只，那110年的总共有89只，这样是逐年在升高。
The artificial nests are now being used to encourage other species to return to their old habitats.
透过栖地补偿的这个概念跟想法，然后去试着去看看，那我们的环境中有哪里或许可以就是作为让猫头鹰入住的一个部分，这样。
With somewhere to now call home, there is more secure future for russet sparrows and other species. Kama Xu and Phil Wing for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.